Hi, welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream from ustream.tv with its blips and also recorded for YouTube. I've zoomed into my little book of Johanna Basford, Magical Jungle. I've sprayed with water and reconstituted all the colours in my Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolours that I made with the 3 colours, and I'm using 3 paintbrushes, and they give me some 3 riggers. So I've got a fine one, a medium one, and then a bit of a chunky one, and I'm just colouring in and having fun. So I'm going to use a medium sized brush, and you want it damp, and then I'm just kind of dunking into these colours that I've reconstituted. And if I put them that way, of course they're miles away, but I can see what I'm doing. So I'm doing what I normally do, is just pick off the flowers. Sorry about that. Pick off the flowers one by one. And there is a subtle difference in shade, because these were the original 18 colours in the palette. So we made a lot of tertiary colours in between the primary colours. And so we had the 6 primaries, which we made from the 3 primaries, and then we made 3 secondary colours, which is orange, purple and green, and then by adding those back into the original colours we got a warm purple, a warm blue purple, and a cool red, cad red, and we had a cad yellow, and then we made some yellow oranges, some yellow reds, orange reds, we made some blue greens and yellow greens, and we made some blue purples and green blues and purpley blues and purpley reds. So we had a lot of tertiary colours by the time we'd finished. And the tertiary colours are all the colours in between the main primaries. And I really like these beautiful pale colours. And these are colours that we would have just washed down the drain when we washed our palette out. And so I've gone with that one, and the purple, and that one. This might be the next one. Now this is probably a bit of a reddier. This is the original Elysian Crimson, this one I think. Yeah, this is Elysian Crimson, the original. But they're watered down, so they're pastel-like colours. And so this book is going to be full of all different pages, because I'm using all my palettes up in this book, because I think it can work a little bit wetter in this colour book. And I'm just so enjoying making these really, really pale pastel colours. So I've started dark, and it's getting paler and paler and paler. So what that will do now is, if I go back to this one, it looks like a different colour, but it's a natural highlight. I've not had to change the brush, change the colour on the brush or anything, and I really like that. It's a very quick way of working, and because I don't want to waste the colour, I'll go back into this one. I could even go back to this one if I wanted. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't play with it. Sorry about that. I haven't played with the camera, have I? Sorry. My mistake. Sorry about that. That's better. And then, even though this is a pink, it's still connected. It was made from the same colour, so you can get away with it because they're all coming out the same pot. And the damp brush allows that lovely flow, so it's almost like a marker. And again, I love working like that. So I'm going to go down here for the orangey colours now, because I think I've got all these yellows to creamy oranges, and I really like those. So again, I do have to wash the brush out in a big pot this time. Dry most of it off with a baby wipe, and think about the coral colours. I think I might have this one. And I've got to mix it up a little bit because it's been stirred. And bearing in mind there's a lot of water in there and very little pigment now. And this is quite now full of colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch that, and I'm going to, with a damp brush, tease the colour out. And again, that's going to give me the most delicate pale colour. Now, if you may not like these colours, you might think, ugh, but give it a go. But you'd be amazed of, as I say, what we would normally throw out and think, oh, there's not much colour left in there. You forget about, this is where all the pastel colours come from. And this is why my little book of colours works, because basically you're doing the same thing. You've got a damp brush and you're taking the smallest amount of colour. And that's why you can get these beautiful pastel colours from very vivid colours. These were very vivid when I first did them. And very strong colours. But the fact that I'm actually using paint up that I would have thrown away, and finding some really, really nice colours. And I've still got a lot of colour on there, so I'm really sorry, but again, tight girl. And this is a lovely way of working. Again, you know, there's no stress. Even though it's a bit wetter, you can do 2 or 3 leaves or 2 or 3 petals without having to go get some more colour, and that's because it's a rigger. And I quite like that. Now, I've made a mistake there, so I don't think I can get that away. I'm pretty sure I can't, but we'll have a go. So I'm going to take that little scrubby brush I used earlier, and you can only do this with watercolour. If we wet it, oops, sorry, need a baby wipe. And put like, now I have really wet the page, so I've got to let that dry now. But it may be pale enough to kind of get away with. So I've got to leave that alone to dry for a few minutes. Because I'm under so many lights, it does dry out quite pink. Now that was a little bit too wet, was that? But again, because you're going into a shadow area, you can play about with this if you want. You can have this a lot darker because it's behind that leaf. Don't want to get too wet because, you know, you would got that maybe a little bit too wet, that, but never mind. I'm going to leave that alone, I think, unless I'm just going to do everything. quite like that darker colour now I've done that. So you can have it as pale or as dark as you want. Yeah, there is a bit of green going to show through, but not as much. It's almost going to disappear. And I may as well, because I've got the colour on the brush, and now it's dried off a little bit, I can kind of just use this brush now. I don't have to change brushes because it's not quite as wet as it was. And again, this brush is going to do the whole of this shell, which is so nice, not having to move too much. And that's a real pastel, almost skin colour. And I've still got some on the brush. I'm just going to I'm still in frame. So if anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. But I want to do some colour mixing with the I'm going to just carry on with this. I'm not going to put any more colour in there. So if you wanted to do a lovely watercolour on watercolour paper, this is the consistency of your washes that would be nice to make some quite pale colours. So I'm just going to go in this orange red. And I think, like, that's a nice. Again, this was the original Cad Red, but it's muted down now quite nicely. And if you do individual ones, if you go over there and then you say go over here, and I do this with the Dr. Martens Hydrus. And this is how I normally work on my little book of colours. So you do every other one. You've got quite a lot of colour in here. And I'll get another one, I think, maybe that one. And the little diddy one down there. This is quite the big brush, this one, but it'll just about do it. And then if you go back to this one, you'll see that the colour has changed. It's a big difference. It's the same brush, but what's happened is it's diluted it with the dampness of the brush quite naturally now. So everywhere I go now, it's going to get a shade lighter, and that's why I do individual little ones. So you get subtle changes. So if you just started that side and gone round, you would have had a natural highlight. And if we go this way, every other one, this isn't the biggest brush, is it? No, this isn't the biggest brush. If you had the biggest brush, you would probably get a whole shell. I don't know if we're going to get the whole one or not. And then I can go back to here, and again it's changed again. And then this one. And this one. And the bigger the rigger, the longer you can colour for. But you can take this almost to no colour at all. Out of the same brush. So we've got so many colours there. And that's even from the same brush. So again, that's where we get the 10 shades from. We get the 10 shades. So if you used the bigger brush, and we'll have the orange. And I picked up quite a lot of colour with that one. And just that bit touch too wet. Now this paper will take it, but some colour books won't. But I've gone in the biggest with the biggest brush. But this is where you get the most beautiful pale colours. But you know, pale colours may not be your thing, but it's just. And again, for highlights, you know, you have the dark one. I mean, that's perfect. You have that colour and you have a highlight, or you have that colour, that's the dark shade, and that's a highlight. And because they are connected, I mean, that's actually dried very well, that. Just kind of tease that around a little bit. And now I can go back in, and it probably will be all the same, this one, because it's a flat colour. But if I touch again, and there's no reason why you can't go in. I mean, in this one particularly, you could do this, and then you use, I don't know where the smaller brush is now, that one, and you just put a touch of that colour. And that's how I do the I've kind of messed that up a bit now. I'm at a funny angle, can't get the paintbrushes upright. There's still a little bit of variation in there. So when that's dried, which won't take long, that is a lot wetter than I normally work. When that's dried, you can probably, oops, sorry, I can't get to the, and it's almost dried. You can just go in with a little bit of a darker colour and a damp brush, and you can blend it in. So you don't have to stay very, very you don't have to stay pale if you don't want to. Just give that a little bit of, and tease it out with a damp brush. You want a little bit of shading under there. But sometimes I can't be, this book is particularly, I like not to faff. I like just to get on with it. And I've lost the little brush. Put them in front of me, I know where they are. So I've gone back to the thinner brush now, and quite like the, this is the orange yellow. Sorry, this is the yellow orange. So this is a tertiary colour. So instead of it being orange, it's got a touch more yellow to it. So it's a pale orange, is this one. And again, I'm not going round each one individually again like I did this one. You can do, but I'm experimenting in this with these paints because these particular patterns are a little bit, and drawings are a little bit bigger. They're not like the Kirby Roseanne ones where you've got to be really concentrating. So I've done that with that. Now if I rinse that brush out, the next colour along, and that one, that's the orange and that's the yellow. So that's the yellow orange because it's got more yellow in it, and that's the orange yellow because it's got more orange in it. Having said that, there doesn't look to be too much in these, but we'll just have a look. Now I won't get the variation on this. I won't get the watercolour effect because I've got saturated all colour now. It's a little bit drier, so if you see, that is now what we call cad yellow. That's a warm yellow, but it's not the original bright yellow. I think actually that one is cad yellow. So if you put a touch of orange into cad yellow, you get a yellow orange. And then if you put a touch of cad yellow into more orange, you get an orange yellow. Did that make any sense? Hopefully it did. Right, so if I go to I can go to lighter and put a really pale colour around that one. And again, I'm not really thinking too much about this because this is, again, I've just got to, because it's got less pigment in it, the pigments tend to move about, and I've just touched that and made a green because because I can't see very well, I caught the blue. So I've put it down here and I've now got a different green. So I'm going to find a leaf, a different leaf. Because I can't waste this colour because I've made it now. So just put that there. Just got to be a bit careful I don't knock that off. So I'm going for this one here. So I've just made this colour and it's quite a nice colour. And because we've got a variation, because we've got a line on there, I'm going to stick to one side at one side there. And I might play with colour instead of doing it flat. So we'll have that one. And there is a lot of colour on this particular brush, because I did mix the colour with the brush. I should have actually gone to the other side for that one, but they're going to be a different colour inside, I think. And when I've done all the section I want with this colour, it's just a bit of an odd, angle for me, is this, but I'll just persevere. So if you hear the tapping, I apologise. But again, that's the colour that's not on here anywhere. It's very close to this one because it was actually next to it in the colour, but it's a different blue. It's a different blue that's made it. So I'm going to do this side and this one. Now, I'm not being as neat as I could be because when you're streaming you tend to go a bit faster, and when you're at home you can kind of, you can turn things easier for you. So in order to create a little bit more contrast, I've got this colour here and this blue, and now as long as you don't need that colour again, you can do this. You can stroke a little bit more blue in it. And then you can go to the other side. It's the same green, it's just got a touch more. And that's going to be a natural shadow without adding black or grey or anything. And that's giving a little bit of contrast. And all you've done is added a little bit of blue. And there's not much of a difference, but it's the same leaf, so you don't want much of a difference. you just want a tiny bit of contrast. And as I say, you've got to make sure that you do all the leaf that you want pale first. And this is how you get your shadows and your highlights and your lowlights. You do all your pales first in watercolour. And when I mix my acrylics and my oils, I mix the colour and I use it as the main colour. I add white for the highlights and I add the complementary colour for the dark colours. And again, I'm going to take a smidgen more of this colour. So it's connected. It's got the same blue in it, it's just got more blue in it than the other two. And again, that's another. But it should go together quite nicely because it's all connected. It's come out the same blue and the same yellow. Whereas if I'd have gone into two different tubes of paint that have already been mixed, they'll be mixed with different greens and different yellows and different blues, and they wouldn't have a connection. But that's not so bad. It goes together because it's got a connection. Hope that made sense. Oh, thank you, Marielle. Thank you. But that's because it's connected. It's all because it's connected. And I do like the green I've just made, so I'm going to... Sorry about this. But I just have to be a little bit more comfortable today. So I'm going to use this on these little heart-shaped leaves. Because I do quite like it. And because that's right over there, you're not actually going to put a connection to it. But this is quite a pretty green. It isn't really an ivy green, but it's quite a pretty green. And this paintbrush, because I've mixed the colour with it, which I shouldn't really have done if it's your posh brush, really. You should always have your mixing brushes, but again, I'm just a bit lazy that way. And so just keep teasing this into here, and that is going to get paler and paler. What I should have done now, you see, that's why I should do a photocopy first. I should have started dark at the bottom and made it lighter on top, because that means that the light would be naturally hitting them on the top. But of course I didn't do that. Now, what I could do is, because this is now going underwater, I think I might do that the same green. So I'll do this the same green, and then because it's going underwater, I'll put a touch more blue in it, so it's darker. And then that should look nice. So again, I'm just using paint up that would have gone down the drain, and yet it's giving me some really unusual colours that I would have never got. Because now I'm completely colour mixing now. I'm mixing as I go along. And that's quite nice. There's something quite nice about doing that as well. And nobody will ever mix it. Well, I'd say nobody. They probably will, but not intentionally. But nobody can ever mix the colours that you mix yourself, that don't come out of a tube or out of the end of a pen. So I'm going to colour those in there. I'm going to do these a different, I think. That looks like it's a different leaf. This one doesn't, though. I might not have enough to do all these and all the ones at the other side, but we'll have a go. Just save a bit of that. So if you've got any questions, pop them in caps. You do tend to go in your own little world, I have to say. It's it is quite therapeutic, this. So I'm going to make that a different leaf, and if I remember rightly, over here are 3 lots of the same. So I've still got some on the paintbrush. You can tell when it's getting very dry, but as long as you can stroke colour in, so I'm really, there's something just quite nice about, this is almost like flat colour, like felt pens. It's just so easy to grind these in, but you need a little bit of a point because there are some delicate sections. So again, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to do this one about, oh, that's a different leaf. I was going to do a darker colour, so you see, if you're very lucky and very quick, you can do that with this. But that's because it's a pastel colour. You wouldn't be able to do that if it was a very dark colour. So I'll have to have a drink of coffee in a second, and then I'll change the colour slightly darker. So this book will be lots of various colours. This is probably going to be the best watercolour book for colour mixing, because all the colours are going to be so different on different pages. Because at first I thought everybody would think, oh, you're using that book as a kind of a dumping ground, but actually these colours are beautiful, and I wouldn't get those normally, only from when I do from my little book. But I can work a little bit wetter because this paper's nice quality. Oh, cold coffee. So I've got this little section here, and there isn't much left now, so that's done quite well. So I'm going to just re-wet it a little bit, and then I'm just going to drag in some colour. Don't really want it to be too different, but I do need enough to do 6. Oh, there's not that many actually underneath, is there? No, so I might get away with that. I want about 3 or 4 brushed folds. And again, photocopy paper, if you touch the edge here like that, and make sure it's not dirty underneath, and you touch this next to the colour, you can see if that's going to be different enough. And I think that is, it's going to be just subtle enough, that. And then that's a touch darker. But they're connected. You couldn't use a hooker's green and a sap green, because they are a dark and a light green, but they're not connected, if that makes sense. So I can go in here now, and you can honestly think that it's the same green, but it's under blue water, because that's what it is. And you can see the difference there. So the puppies are all in, oh, I think they're all in separate beds. Normally they stay like this quite good. It's just the postman at 11 o'clock. That's the postman. But I was clicking on a video because I wasn't sure what I'd said at the end. And I clicked on it and I thought I usually click about 4 spaces in a video. So beginning, make sure that there's no boo-boo, middle, and then the end. And I clicked on the middle. And he's just barked and I jumped out of my skin. So I think I put a bark alert on it at 8 minutes. And you don't realise that because he's under the table. So I'm quite conscious of the fact that I don't want to give anybody a heart. So they're all underneath there. And again, because this is a rigger, the first one's going to be a little bit wet, but just keep going and it'll dry. And this page could take this. There'd be no wrinkling, so that would be good. And then if I take the same green and do the same thing, add some more blue, I've got a dark stem. But it's all come from the same green, so a little bit like the leaf, it would go together quite nicely, if that makes sense. Sometimes I don't talk sense when I'm colouring in because I'm in my little world. The only thing about colour mixing yourself is you've got to make sure you make enough, because it would be very difficult to mix the exact same colour. So it's a good idea to not mix all the green, always keep a little bit back, so that if you miss something you've got that green. Only use half of it. But I'm actually just using colours up, so it doesn't apply to this, but normally, because you'd be gutted if you've missed something and you can't make that colour again. And again, this is getting drier and drier, so this is, again, it's dried, so it's a very dry way of working. So I think I've done all those, so I'm going to do this one in a paler one, this one here. But I'm going to do the stem next. So again, I'm going to go back here with some water and take this blue here. And I thought I was going to waste this actually. But the one thing I have to do, and I hate to just throw that away. I shouldn't have done that because I could have used that for the other one. I'm going to use a small rigger. The 10-0 is a good one. I use that all the time. It's a really nice 10 rigger is a really good one. And these are the Art Master. I think they're £2.50. Series 55. And it's a really nice, fine one. But again, because it's a rigger, you can kind of go on and on and on. But it's taken me years to perfect this way of working with riggers. It really has. So I quite like that effect. And I think this one has a really tiny so although I'm using paints up, I'm really taking a lot of care over this. It's not a case of I'm just using up paint. I'm hopefully being creative. Because again, I want to do a good job. I bought the book. I don't want to just think, well, I'm using used up paint. I might as well just slap it on. this is the easiest way of watercolouring. But again, you can only do that because of the good quality. Oh, I've done the wrong leaf, but never mind. Okay, I can't throw that green away. Because I've done that one, I'm going to do this stem the same. Because I quite like that in frame. I like that green colour. And you do end up with a little tiny lip on the end of your brush. So you need to turn it that way so it will stroke. And that will give you a nice edge on both sides. Oh, I've missed the top of a leaf by the seaweed. Oh, right, I'll get that in just a second. I'll just finish this off. Yes, because I won't get that colour again if I change it, because I've used all of it. I missed a leaf and the seaweed. Whereabouts? Oh, did I get it? Did I get it? So I quite like those, and they are different, but you know, all these greens have come from one yellow and one blue, which is amazing. So I'm going to go back to this. So I'm going to go back into here, because again, this looks kind of like, ooh, but there's colour in there. So I'm going to take this another step further. And again, sometimes you can twist colour out, and sometimes you know that that's saturated, so it's probably going to be too much in there. So I've got two choices. I can touch a leaf. You can see that's quite wet, and I can just very carefully. It is very watery, this, but I love the really, really pale pastel colours that have come from the printer ink colours: cerulean blue, alizarin crimson, and lemon yellow. So you can get, I think, as I say, we've got 650, I think, by the time we'd finished. There was 650. Now, it's probably enough. I can't do that right-handed. And again, there's been, because I've been using it, there's a natural little lip appeared. If you can see that little lip. And so I know that that's going to be a really neat edge. Even backwards, I've kind of created a little bit of a lip. And normally you can't get, you've got to go to the edge this way. Always go that way, turn the page round, and always go that way, and then you will never ever go over. But as I say, the page may not work. It's just, I'm just experimenting with colour, and I love the fact that I'm using the paints up that I would be throwing away. But I wouldn't mix pale colours, because I'm not really a pale colour girl, really. I use them in the watercolours in my little book, because that's how they come out. But, you know, Derwent have mixed all those for me. I'm just using them. If you go over another leaf, you can get a deeper colour. And again, I wouldn't put these two colours together, but I'm using them so they work. Oh, that sounds painful. It's not healing quick, is it? Mind you, if you'd have gone down your kneecap, you would have, you're lucky you didn't break anything, so it's going to take a bit. So don't feel that I'm just kind of recording this and waffling. But thank you for stopping in. It is a live recording, but I don't mind talking to myself. First sign of madness. And then we've got Mr. Turtle here, in all the water lilies on the top. In fact, I've realised I've got all these leaves to do as well, so I'm going to go do those as well. And this is full of that deeper green, so I quite like that. It's a dark teal, is it a colour? Maybe a teal? This is possibly a teal colour. But you really would normally wash that teal colour out. I think my colour is slightly out. I might just have a bit of a look at it. It's a bluey green, is this? And just got to be that little bit careful when you have a big brush. Because although I'm using the colours up that I would normally throw away, as again I say, you know, this is a colour book I want to make a good job of. I don't want to just be slapping colour in here. But this is going to be a really unusual book to look at when it's finished, because it's going to have lots of different colours. And I quite like this really new. I say I wouldn't normally paint something that colour. Let me just have a look, because that looks a little bit blue. But you know what happens when I start playing with things. We'll just see if we can get this. Put this over here. And that's a little bit pinky, is that? Oops, that's why, sorry. Ooh, it's a little bit pink colour, is that? And then what's that done to the yellow? A little bit greener than that. I think that's the best we're going to do. We've got quite a bright yellow there. And I really love these colours. Again, there's a different green there, so I'm going to put this into here, I think. And again, just to check that it's not completely lunar colour. It's quite a fast way of working this as well. It's not going to take you hours and hours and hours. You can do a page in an evening, and again, you know, I love that. Because I love the process, but sometimes I think, oh, am I still doing this page? So sometimes, again, it depends what mood you're in. If you want to just do a chill out. The Kirby Roseannes are lovely, but I wouldn't say they're a bit of a chill out because you're really concentrating on what you're doing. These could be pale. I'll bind you the next to that one now. These could be pale on here. I've actually gone into the original green that I've made as well, so I'm actually working out of this one now. I've gone into this green here, which has got the G on it. There's the blue green, the green, and the yellow green. So I can pick these off a little bit. When I've done the greens, I'll show you what the reds, those pale reds looked like when I did the red lion, the tiger. I think water lilies are this kind of green as well. I'm pretty sure they're quite pale, but I've just seen this here, so we'll colour these in. And normally I do this on a tray, so I can just turn it round and pick things off as I go along. So I'm going to leave that because I want to do that a different colour. I think I like this green, so I'm going to put this green next to this one. And there will be some things that really do not go together, and you'll think, oh, I don't like that. But this is definitely what I would call a proper colour book, because you're experimenting with colour. And I think I'll do this one pale. Just make sure that I'm in frame. Yes, I am. Just. And this is nice flat colour, like a marker, or when you were a little girl I used to play for hours colouring. That's all I ever did. And I quite like the flat colour of the greener we have. This one will be the same. You can use more of the brush on this one because it's a bigger area. So that speeds things up a little bit. Must have dropped a little bit of some of the colour onto there, but I can get rid of that, and that's going to be a darker one. Oh no, that looks like it's the same leaf. It is. And if I'm very lucky, I will just get this leaf out of here, because just during those three or four leaves, just doing those 3 or 4 leaves, I've used up a tiny drop in there, look, and I'm just going to get that out because I need that. So that one's empty. How cool is that? That's nearly clean. So the tight Yorkshire Lass is a happy girl because she's just got enough. finish this leaf. And so now I'm going into the next one. This one. And it stood for a little while. Sorry about the hand, just have to get, so mix it back up again, make sure there's nothing in there because all that's going to come out. And I think that's going to make a really nice water lily. I think that's a flower, can't decide. I have to have a look, can't decide, can't remember. It's very similar to this colour because it was next to it on the colour chart that we made, the colour mixing palette. So there isn't much in this. This is the it's got a little bit more blue in it. This one, so you can see there is just a slight difference. So I can see the end of the tunnel now. I was getting a bit distraught thinking it's going to take me forever to use all these paints up, but we've used one palette up, we've got 17 to go. I just wonder how many pages we're going to go through. So I really like these colours. And I think I should have done that one, that green, but it doesn't matter. I might do this one, I think. Which one shall I do? This one. Because obviously I can change this when I want to. And I'm going to do this one. Because there's a lot of colour in this rigger, I can keep going, and you're teasing the colour down as you're stroking the brush. So to get 2 large leaves out of the rigger, it's quite good. And there seems to be a nice one there, but this green is very similar to this one, so I'm going to do this one. And I can always darken it and put some highlighters, some low lights in it when I want some darker shadow if I want to. Actually it is a bit darker, so I'm not going to do that leaf. I think I'm going to do these under here. So that's a couple of leads here that I'm doing. And this is a really faster way of working. If you don't want to faff with little colours and little patterns, this is quite a chill out. But you've mixed your own colours, so it's quite nice. Poor little pig. You've got frozen food on your ankle and your kneecap. I must admit, I think I could do it. I wonder if it's the weather. I could do with frozen peas on my ankle and my kneecaps today. They're not behaving themselves as I wish them to do. I think it's something to do with the weather. And obviously because you'd fallen, which makes it 10 times worse. I could not believe when I fell, I didn't break anything. In fact, they took me to the hospital because I banged my head on the concrete drive. Oh dear. The lurcher decided to pass me at 25 miles an hour. And just at that moment, I stepped very carefully, because I have to. But I was walking and I stepped and she ran round me. But she ran round me with a dog lead on. So the dog lead went under my foot just as I stood on it. And I stood on the knot near the handle. My legs went up into the air. And I landed completely on my right side, which is my good side. And my left side was in agony for weeks. But they thought I'd broken my right. And I landed literally, my arm was completely flat. So I landed on this wrist, and this elbow, and this shoulder. And my right hip. If it had been on YouTube, it would have been funny. Because it was a comedy sketch. My legs went up into the air. Oh, that's quite a nice green. So I've added a touch of water to the green I had over here. And I've got another green that I quite like. So again, I'm going to use that. And so you wouldn't believe it's the same green, but it is. And it's getting paler and paler. But again, I love these pale greens. You know, I don't normally mix my own colours, so it's really nice. I like frozen peas, but we eat frozen peas, and I found some frozen beans, broad beans that I'd had for a while. I found those in the back of the freezer, so we put them into 2 bags. So 1 bag's in the freezer cooling while the other one's out. For gout, it's very good for gout. It's extremely good for cooling that the red heat you get with pseudo gout. It's very good. So I'm picking off these leaves as I'm coming to them. And I've got that green now, so I'm quite enjoying myself with this green. And again, really flat way of working, really quick. And to get a couple of leads out of one paintbrush is again easy. Sorry, there'll be a bark alert. It could be the post. Could be the postie. Yes, he's just about to wake up and decide he wants to growl. Sorry. Alfie. The thing is, I have to shout to distract him, so that defeats the object, because then I would definitely... Oopsie. I'm still trying to get to these sections. I can't see the postman. Parks his van normally outside. I did that one the same colour, but oh, I'll do it the same colour. Did I do it the same colour? No, I didn't, did I? I'm lost now. There's so many different leaves. I'm getting a bit lost. There aren't many leaves left. I keep saying that, but actually there aren't many leaves left. But this is going to be really unusual because there's going to be so many different leaves, whereas normally, you know, you pick one leaf and you do it all the same. So again, this is a completely different way of working. Just put a touch of different colour in here to see if I can get a different green. So thanks for joining me. As I say, this is a live stream where people can have a natter, popping in and out. And also recorded on Ustream if anybody wants to watch. And they have the time. I quite like to catch everybody live, but I started to fall asleep recently, so I miss it. So if I sit down to watch TV, my daughter wants me to sit with her. I kind of have one ear in and one ear out. But because it's getting nippy, we put the little fire on, and next minute we're all asleep. So I'm going to pick these off now. So I put a tiny bit of the dark blue into this green, and it was the deepest, darkest blue. I put a tiny bit of this one, which is a real turquoisey bluey green, into this one, and it's given me a brighter green, which is a phenomenal, isn't it? And again, we're almost out of this colour now. Just wanted to pick these tall ones out. But I'm hoping I'm going to get some really nice effects by doing all these different greens. And that's me literally scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I've actually come out with the same green as this one, even though I've mixed it from two different palettes. That's strange. They look like they're the same, but they're not. These are quite nice. There's a big one here. We'll get rid of this one now. I've got a brush full left. Sorry about that. I'm right next to the the light. So if I push this down here, I should get a variegated kind of effect. A little bit more out of there. I'm going to put some colour in the next one, because I want to get this leaf done as well now. I'll put a shadow over that in a little while, but I've just put that colour on it. Sometimes it's a bit easier to do that. I'm going to just put some water into this one, because it's kind of dried out a little bit now. Oops, I get caught up in wires and things. So I'm just rejiggling this one. that's going to give me a nice, contrast. There's quite a lot of, even though I scraped quite a lot of colour out of there, there's quite a lot on there, so I've got to be a little bit careful. Now I could get the little brush and tease it, but if I work quite fast, it should be fine. And this is a completely different way of working than I normally work, so again it's quite nice to have a change. So I'm going to go around all these. I'm going to use that green and go around all the edges of the leaves that I've been putting a pale colour in. And it is, again, it's quite therapeutic, this way of working, just. And these are the Cotman student grade, but the pigments in them are very, very good. Bearing in mind just how watered down these are. Normally when you water things down too much, you get nothing, but I'm very impressed with these. And the colours are vibrant as well, so there's, you don't have to have professional watercolours, it's just as an artist that can't practice as an artist anymore, I thought it would make me feel a little bit better colouring somebody else's work in. But again, it's taken me 50 years to buy professional watercolours. I don't think I've had them before because I've never done watercolours before. I've always done oils or acrylics and line drawings, so it's a bit new for me. Oh, I've got one here, look, I've just got there. You can tell your paintbrush will drag and you'll go over the edges if it's too dry. And I thought it was an ocean colour. I've done the ocean, haven't I? I need a thingy colour now. Oops. It's just a bad angle for me to keep in the lines. Being left-handed, I have to have everything squiddled round a little bit. Now I've just realised that could be a fish in front of the leaf. I've drawn it as a leaf. I'm on the number 3, so I've got the smallest one. Possibly could have gone to a smaller one, but so I hope this isn't as boring as watching paint dry. Watching paint dry, so I need to kind of go around all the different colours and all the greens look completely different depending on what they're next to, because it's the colour next to it that makes a difference, which is why you can get away with using one colour at one side and one colour at the other. See, the thing is, you get so wrapped in what you're doing, you forget to you forget to talk. So I really like that little space there. That's quite nice, like that. We seem to have got some greens here as well, so I'll give these. And the colour's looking quite good. It's nearly all gone. I'm hoping by the time we've got around the outskirts of all the leaves, I do like this green. This is a nice green as well. It's almost a tea rose green, I think. And it's just the subtle differences of greens that make it. You don't really want to have such a difference in the colours because it's the same leaf, even though these are stylised. You want some continuity, and having these colours coming from the same greens and yellows actually works quite well. So we've got some more coral to do. Looks like we're doing quite well here now, grass-wise. I'm going to do that pale. I've got a pale one, so I'm going to use that one there. Oops. So I just show you what we've been doing, and then I'll have to write that down, girls, won't I? So let me just do this, and then so you can see all the colours. I don't know what that looks like. It's a mishmash of colour. But that's what it looks like. So there's the water lilies and the fish and the turtle, and that's what my palette looks like still. But I have got rid of that one. Well, almost. And almost that one, but I touched it. So those two have nearly gone, and that one's completely gone. But there's still a fair amount of colour in there. But the reds, those reds here, these pale pastel colours, started out these reds here. So I've taken them, that's the original flat colour. And the blues, that was the next section of colours. So you can see they are getting paler and paler and paler. And the greens are getting paler and the blues are getting paler. So that's the blue that's here. And that was the original start with the yellows and the greens. That's how bright they were. This has all come from this palette. All these greens, all these greens, all these colours. And then they were getting a little bit... Again, I love those colours, but I wouldn't have put them together if I hadn't have had them on the palette. And again, this one, I would never have done this one either. These were the reds, the oranges when they were bright. And I think there's another couple. So there's quite a few pages, and I've still got, there's a blue bottle with an elephant in it somewhere. So I've got quite a few pages. So that's all come from this palette. And the palette was actually used to... I can't remember what I did with it. I think I did the colour mixing with it. I think I've done some colour mixing with it. But if you look back on when we made it, it was made from these 3 cotton colours here. I just can't remember what I did with it. But from when I decided that I wanted to wash the palette out, I started to use them in here. So there's going to be quite a few pages in here. And although I am using up paint, this is definitely not a scrapbook. This is definitely, you know, I'm coming up with some really nice, unusual colours. And colouring in a completely different way than I normally do. And again, that's purely because I am using up the colours. So I'll carry on. As I say, I've got this one to finish and this one. I've lost him again, the little elephant in the bottle. No, he's gone. But I thought about doing this one in the very, very pale colours that are left. So I'm going to keep going until I've used them all. Just to show you what lovely colours you can get. So thank you for watching. Now that's interesting. I press stop record and it won't.